This is Creating Your Encore Career and Becoming a Silver Entrepreneur with your host, Lynn Freest. Lynn will share ideas and expert advice from people that are walking in your shoes and living their encore careers, where they want and at the pace they want. You'll start a company of one with confidence and knowledge to live a fulfilled life of freedom and ease. Lynn is a coach and leadership consultant whose mission is to show senior leaders and experts how to start something refreshing and new after a full career in the corporate environment.
Welcome to this episode of Creating Your Encore Career and Becoming a Silver Entrepreneur. Thanks as always for listening. With an Encore Career, the rewards are better than a cold beer on a hot day. And you can be creating value in the world beyond just winning the next pickleball game. You can work when you want, where you want, and you can do the work you love. Also, on October 27th, I'll be hosting an Encore Career Book Club, which is to help you 50-plus-year-olds who are new to entrepreneurship how to practically apply lessons from the book called You Are the Brand by best-selling author Mike Kim. This Encore Career Book Club will run for 4 weeks. So stay tuned for more information. Meanwhile, head to lynnfreest.com, listen to a few podcasts, and get on the email list. We'll see you soon. And if you're ready to get started right away, please contact me at lynn@lynnfreest.com. Thank you. Well, this is episode 165. And how do I stay relevant in my Encore career? So the 3 questions we're going to be focusing on today are, why do you need to develop your value proposition in an Encore career? How can I keep my skills relevant? How will people even find me? So in episode 164, we talked about people skills or emotional intelligence. And that whole idea is the basic starting point because you need to know yourself and you need to know how to understand others. So this is an arena that could be a key source of value for you. In your value proposition, the way I define it, is you've been relevant in your past work. You've recovered from mistakes. You've had negative external events happen to you. Things like you go back far enough, it could have been the 1980s recession, the 2000 dot-com bust, the 2008 recession. All these things are events that happened, and you learned how to bridge them and go through them. So as people look forward to the recovery from the pandemic or even the next possible recession, these are things that you've already gone through. You can help others navigate it. Then beyond that, start thinking about activities that you were most proud of and make a list of those activities. And this isn't about the job titles you had. It was actually the things that you worked on or that you did, teams you led, those kinds of things. Another way to think about that is, could you think about the work you did where you lost track of time? And this could be clearly work-related. It could be other things that you've done. But as you think about an Encore career, what are the things you've done where you truly lose track of time, or as it's often called, where you find yourself in flow? The next thing I'd recommend you do is talk to 5 former colleagues. And don't just ask them for character references as such, but I'd really interview them and say, what did they appreciate about you? What did they see as your key contributions in some situations? Or in more general terms, what did they see as your strengths? So this is the idea of how did other people see you? And again, you can do that in the context of your past work is probably the most useful, but you can even ask family and friends about this to get some general ideas of where you in the past have created value for people. And then I always recommend the book by Chip Connolly called Wisdom at Work. If you want to read through that book, I think he's got a great idea of how you think about creating an Encore career. He obviously, for those who haven't heard the book, he worked with the founders of Airbnb. Now, Chip had built and sold a boutique hotel process. And so he went to work for these founders of Airbnb because they knew the technology. They weren't sure about the hospitality industry, and Chip helped him with that. And in consequence, he's built up a kind of a whole thought process around what does it mean to be a modern elder. The next question I want to explore a little bit here is, how can I keep my skills relevant? technology is advancing all the time. You had to adopt a technology in your corporate life or in the work you did before. And the fact is, you can't change your age. Your age is what it is. But as you move forward, what you can do is you can remain intensely curious. You can demonstrate energy as you talk to other people, because I think that's a lot of it is how you, one, perceive yourself, but also how you interact with others. So again, I think you have to maintain an intense curiosity, and you can demonstrate energy as you talk to others. Now, you will have to learn some new tech skills. Some of the simple ones, which you may already have, is Zoom, LinkedIn, some kind of collaboration software, because those are the basics of how work gets done in today's world. I will also suggest that you, in learning some of these skills, you get comfortable with YouTube. That's something I've had to develop over time. I'm a person who used to read the manuals, but now instead, everybody will just say, if I ask them a question, oh, go look at YouTube. And it's true. You can find 5 to 50-minute videos on whatever skill it is you're trying to learn, and it's really marvelous how you can pick up stuff that way. But beyond using YouTube, I think one of the skills you should consider learning is being comfortable on video. A lot of what you want to share, if you want to create an encore career, you need to develop a know, like, and trust, as they say. And you had to do that in your previous career. But often that was in person, that was in the framework of a business. Now, all of a sudden, it's in the framework of strangers. So to the extent that you can share your knowledge, present yourself in the video format, I think can be very valuable. And then you need to find some mentors for some of this stuff. It's just easier as you bump into things to have somebody to call. And it's going to be a reverse mentor. They will be mentoring you on technology, but you know what? You can reciprocate, and you can mentor them on things like leadership or experiences that you've gained in your rich and valuable career. And then there's the whole element of you'll need to learn about the technology even if you don't become an expert in it. So one of the examples is Tableau, which is a data software. You don't have to be a Tableau expert, but you have to understand what's going on there, because one of the things that you might provide is good questions for data analysts to pursue in that software Tableau. So I guess fundamentally, I'd suggest that you need to learn the why of technology and the what of technology, even if you don't learn the how of some elements of technology. Now, some of it you will, but there are the pieces, and there's such a marvelous range of technology out there. Nobody can learn it all, but you do need to have some understanding of it. Then the next piece is, as you get into the things that you will learn and you won't learn, start exploring where you might hire some skills that you don't have and you don't want to spend the time learning. For example, I have a podcast producer. I could have gone through the time and energy to learn how to edit and produce my own podcast, but that was a waste of my talents. That's not where I can add the most value. So I've hired somebody else to do that for me. And along with that thought, you do want to stick to your highest value activities. So any of these things, and there's a marvelous set of stuff out there now, whether it be Upwork or Fiverr, all kinds of small tasks that you can have somebody else do for you. It would be just like you didn't do all the accounting in your business, unless you were the accountant. You didn't do all the marketing. You can have other people for reasonable amounts of money do some of that work for you. And then just as we wind up this piece on tech, and this is from in the last century when I was young in my career, but we were adopting technology and I was leading that technology at the time. And so I was analyzing data, gathering data, and presenting it. And my boss said to me, with technology, he said, Lynn, you can really learn to make bigger mistakes faster. And that's still true of technology, even in today's world. But he was the one that said, hey, this doesn't make sense, what you came up with here, or this is the question I want you to answer. Now you can play that role that my former boss did for me, is, hey, I think you've got something here, but it either doesn't make sense or maybe we need to explore a different question. So remember, that's kind of where you're going to fit in maybe in the technology arena. The final question I want to answer in this particular episode is that question about how will people find me? And again, that's interesting. In your former life as an employee, it was pretty straightforward. The people you worked with, you didn't have to go out and find people. But it's different now in an Encore career. So I will say, just from my experience and what I've learned, is LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, all of those are possible places where you can interact with what could be your office. And sometimes it's interesting because it may not be where you think they're going to be, but the first one is usually going to be LinkedIn. That's where they're going to find you. Another thing is you need to have a home base. And I've talked about this in earlier podcasts, your website. Now, it doesn't have to be something real fancy. I think I've talked about earlier, a website really only needs to have 5 elements: a home page, an about you page, somewhere you talk about what your value proposition is, how to contact me. It doesn't need to have a lot of fancy stuff. You might want somebody to create it so it looks nice, but it doesn't have to be big, fancy, and expensive. Then, as far as having people find you, I think you need to do something what I'll call create pillar content. This has been shared with me by others have said you have to have some extended, and it could be a post you put on LinkedIn. It could be something you put on your website. It could be something you record and have on YouTube. But it's the idea of think about what it is you want to be doing. And it's an extended piece. It'll be 4 or 5 minutes long, which doesn't sound like much, but could be 2,000 words. So it can be an extended piece of what are you about? Because people are going to go online to get to know you first. And that's where you need to have something so that they can do that. Then the next piece is join groups in your expertise. That could be LinkedIn groups. That could be in-person groups. It could be trade associations, any number of things. But the idea is you want to find out where your potential clients are hanging out, either online or in person. The next item I would suggest is many people find their work, what I'll call, with friends of friends. So often your friends aren't the people that need your services, but they know somebody that does. So again, don't be afraid to talk to your friends about what you're up to, what your Encore career is about, because while they may not truly be your ideal client, it wouldn't be unlikely that they might run into somebody that they know that is. And then the other piece, I'll say the last piece, is you can explore contract sites. They have Upwork. I know there are sites for engineering work. So you could also kind of look at those and maybe start exploring. They usually have search functions. You can put in what you're interested in for your Encore career, and you might be able to find how are people asking for work? What are they asking for in the workplace? That's just a different way to, again, explore where it is and how people use the words they use for finding work. And finally, as you think about how will people learn about you in the Encore career, there's a series of books about the whole concept of consulting and building an Encore career by a noted expert. Name is Edgar Schein. He has a lot of books out, but he is one of the noted authors around consulting. But he has 2 of them out that I think I'll recommend. One is Humble Inquiry, and the other is Humble Consulting. They're relatively short books, but they're very insightful as to how do you put your mindset together as you go out and reach out to people. So again, just a couple of interesting things that might help you as you think about starting your Encore career. So to wrap up, with an Encore career, you can be creating value in the world beyond just winning the next pickleball game. You can work when you want, where you want, and you can do the work you love. And in October, I'll be hosting an Encore Career Book Club to help those of you who are new to entrepreneurship practically apply the lessons from a book called You Are the Brand by best-selling author Mike Kim. And that Encore Career Book Club will run for 4 weeks. And if you register, we'll make sure you get included in the book club group. So stay tuned for more information. Meanwhile, you can head over to my website, linfrias.com, listen to a few podcasts, see how this information resonates. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.